All right, folks, it's Thursday, August 14th, 2025, and of course, a lot of things are happening around the world, so we'll be talking about those here on World Edition. Israeli settlement plans will bury idea of Palestinian state, minister says, and that was reported by the BBC. So Smotrich to okay 3,000 homes east of Jerusalem, burying that idea of a Palestinian state. So that's definitely what folks are talking about in this controversial West Bank settlement. So that's definitely something that is going on as well. So folks are definitely talking about this notion of a lot more homes coming into the West Bank. EU sending wildfire help to Spain as death toll rises. So Southern Europe bakes and burns, turning holiday hotspots into infernos. So Europe battles deadly wildfires as high winds fuel flames, and the wildfires have been fanned by heat waves and strong winds, and they're raging across Europe. Putin says Trump making energetic effort to end war as summit nears. Number 10 hails powerful sense of unity after Zelensky talks. So Zelensky is visiting Britain's Keir Starmer, and Keir Starmer hosts Vladimir Zelensky at Downing Street. So definitely looks like he's still trying to get some support for his efforts to fight against Russia as well. And Putin will be having that meeting with Trump on tomorrow. Israel says it is in talks with several countries about taking in displaced Palestinians. South Sudan denies talks with Israel to resettle Palestinians from Gaza, and definitely that is going on. But Israel said it's in talks with 5 countries overtaking the Gazians. And Israeli settlers unleash record high attack in West Bank. The city is locked down by armed troops. Where was what law now has no place in reality, is what Sky News is saying. So definitely there's a lot of talk around the Middle East and all along those lines. Israeli gunfire kills at least 25 in Gaza, as Netanyahu says he will allow Palestinians to leave. So Israel pounds Gaza City. 123 dead in the last 24 hours was reported yesterday. So that's definitely something that is still going on as well. North Korea says South Korea's peace overtures are a pipe dream. Kim Jo-young, North Korea leader, denies removing propaganda loudspeaker at the border, and the powerful sister of the North Korean leader denies removal of the frontline speakers. So Kim's sister mocks South Korea olive branch as a foolish dream. And Trump tells European leaders that the U.S. could provide security guarantees for Ukraine. Trump offers hope on security guarantees as Ukraine braces for the Putin meeting. U.S. ready to provide Ukraine security guarantees, but opposes NATO membership, Macron says. Macron, NATO will not provide security guarantees for the Ukraine, but U.S. is ready to be part of them. So we'll see what goes on in that way as well. 10 expat workers are found dead in Kuwait. Alcohol poisoning is suspected. So 13 dead and dozens ill from alcohol poisoning in Kuwait is what is being reported in that area. So looks like there might be some things going on with toxic alcohol consumption in Kuwait. And Trump ally Eric Prince plans to keep forces in Haiti for 10 years to fight the gangs. So Eric Prince plans to keep those forces in Haiti for 10 years to fight the gang situation that is going on in that area and to collect taxes as well. U.S. briefly deploys warships after Chinese military ships collisions. So U.S. warships sail in vicinity of disputed shoal where Chinese ships collided. So PLA jet accused of dangerous moves near South China's Scarborough Shoal, and that is definitely something that folks are talking about as well. A U.S. teen pilot claims innocence after charges dropped in Antarctica flight case. So a U.S. pilot stranded in Antarctica says it's isolating and lonely. So the U.S. teen pilot agrees to donation to suspend proceedings in Antarctica landing case. So that is something that's going on. American teen pilot detained in Antarctica while raising money for cancer on a solo trip. Ukrainian drone strike sets fire to Russians' Volgograd oil refinery. Kiev confirms that was confirmed yesterday. Series of attacks verified across Russia, plus tracking hotspots from Europe wildfires. So like I said, the wildfires are definitely something that is in the news as well. So that's definitely something that folks are talking about and having a lot of coverage of. Chinese climber dies after summiting the world's second highest peak, K2. So the climber was killed by falling rocks days after she summits K2, the world's second highest peak. So the mountaineers set off on foot to retrieve the body of the Chinese climber who died on K12. And reindeer population, yeah, we're not even in the season where we're thinking about reindeers, which is Christmas and everything, but the reindeer populations could plummet by up to 80% by 2100, researchers are saying. So it looks like there's about to be a significant decline in the reindeer population. And Trump has vowed to free Jimmy Lai. A Hong Kong court is about to decide the media mogul's fate. Some folks are asking who is Jimmy Lai. Apparently, he's the Hong Kong media tycoon on trial for national security crimes. So definitely, is there some notion that even Trump may have decided to free him? And there's a secret channel that Russia and Ukraine use to trade prisoners of war. So Ukraine brings back 84 POWs, including dozens of civilians. And definitely, it looks like they have swapped prisoners each ahead of the U.S. summit. And there's a new draft of the Global Plastic Pollution Treaty that wouldn't limit plastic production. So countries are deadlocked on plastic productions and chemicals as talks on a global treaty draw to a close. So that's something that took place and no agreement in sight as the UN Plastic Pollution Treaty talks enter their final day. And Typhoon Podell blows through southern Taiwan. That was reported yesterday. Heavy rains lashed southeastern China after tropical storm Podell made landfall. So that's definitely something that folks are talking about. And they're also talking about a couple that died after getting swept out to sea while taking selfies. So wildfire menaces a major Greek city as heat wave grips Europe. But apparently this couple was swept out to sea while they were taking selfies, I guess, of some of the weather conditions that were going on in that particular situation. And Russia is restricting Telegram and WhatsApp calls, citing breaches. So WhatsApp accuses Moscow of trying to block secure communication for millions of Russians, but they are restricting those particular apps and all along those lines. And new details are emerging about Japan's notorious World War II germ warfare. So definitely former members of Unit 731 are fighting nightmares and atrocity deniers, but it looks like they are having some conversations about what took place in that historical moment and all along those lines. Let's see a couple of things happening in the U.S. and I'll bring in Rick Rosner and see who else might be joining us as well. It looks like the Kremlin has, of course, announced that Trump and Putin will meet one-on-one in Alaska. So everybody's trying to figure out what will go on in those talks and what kind of results will happen in those as well. And a man accused of faking his death and fleeing the U.S. has been convicted of rape. And so definitely it looks like that's going on as the man accused of faking his death to avoid rape charges is found guilty of sexual assault in Utah, this being the fugitive Nicholas Rossi, and all along those lines. And a strange GOP divide is forming over Trump's gerrymandering plans. So it looks like the fight is on, how redistricting could unfold in 8 entangled states. Matter of fact, I was watching online yesterday and saw that 2 folks that are sometimes seen as Trump allies were going at each other, that being Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lori Loomer. They were even making some accusations about their relationships and whether they might be in affairs or not in affairs and things along those lines. But it was definitely some nasty conversations that were going on in that particular dialogue back and forth between them. I did hear Midas Touch talking about that as well. And the FBI returned stolen documents signed by a conquistador to Mexico. So the FBI has returned the historic manuscript to the Mexican government. So this is a stolen 500-year-old document that was signed by the Spanish conquistador to Mexico, and it looks like it's coming back to its rightful home and all along those lines. And the Trump's D.C. police takeover and National Guard deployment. So crowds in D.C. are outraged by federal law enforcement presence as cars are stopped on busy streets. Checkpoint with ICE agents met by protesters in D.C. Trump wants to take back D.C., but the federal government already controls much of it, is what was being reported in the New York Times. And Aaron may rapidly intensify into a major hurricane. So Tropical Storm Aaron is expected to strengthen. Models are showing a slight eastward shift. And all along those lines, so surging seas expected along the Florida's east coast as Aaron gains strength in the Atlantic. So we'll see if it even hits my neck of the woods here in North Carolina. And a man charged with felony after allegedly whacking a federal agent with a sandwich amid Trump's D.C. crime crackdown. I don't know how you can get a charge for attacking a person with a sandwich, but apparently that happened. A man charged with felony for allegedly throwing a sandwich at a federal law enforcement officer. So definitely that is something going on, and apparently throwing a sandwich can be a felony. And a glacier outburst sends a surge of water downstream into Juneau, Alaska. Flood barriers protected the city from disaster, even though I was watching another news report and saw one of those houses just kind of like almost dissolve. It was like that bad the way it fell into the sea and all along those lines. But it definitely dissolved, and hopefully nobody was in it because it was not a pretty sight. And 3 were arrested in a $2 million heist from a Brinks truck in Philadelphia. Thieves have stolen millions in a string of armored car heists in the Philadelphia area, authorities are saying. And a former Brinks employee among 3 charged in the robbery of the armored truck in Philadelphia. So that's some of the things going on in the news, including the multiple injuries after a school bus carrying over 40 children crashed on the first day of school in Texas. So lots going on in the world, including 3 Virginia sheriff deputies who were injured in the gunfire while executing a search. Multiple deputies were shot in an incident near the Virginia-North Carolina border. And Melania Trump is demanding that Hunter Biden retract comments that are leaking her, I guess, to Epstein. So First Lady Melania Trump puts Hunter Biden on a $1 billion notice over false defamatory Epstein claims. So she's demanded that Hunter Biden retract comments linking her to Epstein. So definitely that's something going on in the news, excuse me, as well. Well, let's bring in Rick, because Rick might have some ideas.
All right, so this is one thing I know a little. I read some articles about. Okay, so Hunter Biden cites author Michael Wolff, saying that Wolff said that Jeffrey Epstein introduced Trump and Melania. So I think that offers Hunter Biden, Trump and Melania are full of crap with a lot of their lawsuits. You know, and if I cite somebody as Hunter Biden did, I'm not saying it. I'm saying somebody else said it. So, and if I have no expectation, you know, that, so I think he's got some protection.
Hopefully he's got some protection. I did see another story that just looks interesting, because I know in the past Sasha has talked about Lulu, and I think it's a popular website, or like that's something to do with clothes. But apparently they are a Brazilian company, and they're or maybe Brazil's Lulu is a person, but I'm not sure. But anyway, they're announcing $5.5 billion in credits for exporters hit by U.S. tariffs. So definitely there's a plan.
Wait, so the Brazilian government is going to subsidize tariff fees for exporters from, I mean, okay. I mean, that's one way to deal with it.
Yeah, that's one way to deal with it. So they're going to give an aid package for businesses impacted by Trump tariffs. So they were saying, hey, you're going to tariff us, we'll give you some credit money to deal with these tariffs. So yeah, maybe other countries will do that.
I mean, it's essentially a payoff to the U.S. On behalf of exporters. All right.
Yep. And it looks like the failed New Mexico State GOP candidate got 80 years for shooting at Democrats. So there was a shooting spree at Democrats' official homes, and the failed GOP candidate was sentenced to 80 years. That's a long time. So Solomon Pena, a Republican ex-candidate, has been sentenced in a politically motivated shooting plot. So I guess he's going to have to serve those 80 years, or maybe he'll get parole after.
All right. So most elections have two or three main candidates,
Right.
and then another half dozen, candidates that get less than 2% of the
Right.
vote. And maybe half of the little teeny candidates are crazy people to some degree. And, people who maybe run again and again and they never get more than, 500 votes. And this was a crazy person who um, did very badly in an election and then decided the election was rigged and then started shooting at his opponents. And all this takes place in Albuquerque, where I've lived from time to time, and I'm not overly a fan of Albuquerque. I think some towns have good karma. I grew up in Boulder. Boulder is very frickin' well, it's nice.
Right.
Albuquerque is less nice, and stuff happens in there. You know,
It's
they
something
they
that
they got. I think they had a consent decree over cop with the feds, or the feds came in because their Albuquerque cops were a little bit too shooty.
yeah.
Um, you know, um,
Well, I know we talk about crypto, and apparently crypto might be threatening one of those candidates because apparently they're saying cash is threatening Sherrod Brown's comeback campaign in Ohio. So maybe he's getting some crypto money, and people are wondering about the legitimacy of the crypto money and everything like that. But they are saying it could threaten his candidacy and everything like that. So who knows what is going on in that? Hey, I got a question to ask you because you're in Hollywood, and it's always the theme of movies and everything like that. And I see them around town, not often because I don't live close to downtown and everything, but I do run across them every blue moon and well, every once in a while. I won't say every blue moon, but there's all this notion of they look easy, but they do have armed guards and everything like that. But why would you attack a Brinks truck? Brinks trucks usually have armed guards and everything like that. But apparently, they did arrest these folks after this $2 million heist. But that seems like a kind of
well,
like the
that's where
go
they asked in the 1930s. There was a bank robber named Willie Sutton, and
after.
they asked him, "Why do you rob banks?" He goes, "Well, that's where the money is."
Right.
So there might be a 1989 Cutlass Supreme in downtown uh, Raleigh, but you're not going to rob a 1989 Cutlass Supreme because probably there's only like $1.50 in change in
Right.
the so yeah, there's a Eddie Murphy, Pete Davidson, Kiki Palmer movie out where they rob a an armed truck. Um,
Yep. But the other thing that I was going to ask you, because I know you were a uh, writer for a number of folks, including Jimmy Kimmel and stuff like that. But I'm thinking this was just going to be all over the late night joke machine and everything like that. Because how can you get charged with a felony for throwing a sandwich? And what kind of sandwich are you throwing? Because
Well,
definitely,
so I've worked I bounced bars for 25 years,
right,
and you don't even have to touch somebody to be charged with assault. Um, like one of my jobs at this bar, the Sagebrush Cantina, was to stop people from sneaking bottles of beer out as they left. You can't take an open in California. You can't leave a bar with an open container of alcohol, and so people would walk out with them tucked under their jackets and stuff, and I'd make a move towards them like you can't, and they immediately start yelling, "That's assault, that's assault." And so sandwich or not, if you make a threatening move, that can be assault.
could be so. We got Sasha, we got our Canadians joining us, Shasta and John. But Sasha, I know y'all be talking about it on tomorrow's Ukrainian show, but Trump is telling European leaders that the U.S. could provide security guarantees for Ukraine. So, what is your take on this? I guess that's one of the things that he's offering, but he is saying that they are opposing NATO membership for Ukraine. So, what is your take on what's going on and what can we expect in these talks? He also hinted that this might be one of multiple talks. So this might be just kind of like the fill you out negotiation talk, and then we'll have more conversation later as they get further into the conversation. So, what is your take on this?
Well, I think all this is a great personal tragedy for Donald Trump. He dreams for many years now to have some kind of a business and otherwise relationship with Putin and some mega projects here and there and so on. And to tell the truth, I even don't understand why he's still dreaming about all that, because in just 7 months since he became president of the United States, he amassed fortune of $3.4 billion according to Forbes, New Yorker magazine investigation. So if he made so much money, $3.4 billion, he never been so rich in all his life. He was really struggling all his life after losing over $400,000 that his father left him, and he squandered all that. Six casino bankruptcies in the 90s. No U.S. bank would touch him in the 2000s. The Deutsche Bank paid $35 billion penalty for dealing with the Russian mafia money and essentially laundering this money through Trump organizations. So after all that, finally, I remember last year when there was a trial with Jay Carroll, he didn't have money to post in court. He was asking his friends from Elon Musk and some others, and just providing him with some money. He was begging for money, and now in 7 months he made 3.4 billion. So why does he still need this bloody murderer Putin and his country, whose experts to the world are only death, weapons, corruption, and prostitution? Why does he need that? Maybe he will smarten up and stay away from all that garbage.
To come off of what Sasha is saying, Trump's show, The Apprentice, which ran with low ratings for, first The Apprentice, then Celebrity Apprentice, ran for 20 some seasons and convinced dumb people, dumb voters, that Trump is some kind of genius, even though his lines were written for him. And the only reason he did The Apprentice and a more competent business person didn't, they approached a bunch of billionaires and successful business people to be on the show, and they're like, no thank you, I don't need this, I'm busy, like Mark Cuban, I'm busy doing business. When they put Mark Cuban on TV, it was part of a panel that probably ate up much less of his time on Shark Tank. So legitimate business people turned down the opportunity to do The Apprentice because Trump is kind of bullshit, and had time to do it. He got the favor of being turned into a TV genius, but he's not. He's. And I'm reading the New Yorker article right now, and yeah, he pulls in money through crypto via his son-in-law Kushner's making multi-billion-dollar hedge fund deals with the Saudis and the Qataris and all the and yeah, this is Trump's, and Putin is more than willing to keep on talking because it doesn't accomplish anything, and it lets Putin just go on, fighting Ukraine. Putin would have a zillion meetings with Trump because they don't go anywhere. They don't lead to Putin changing his his war strategy.
I've just read that Putin is bringing to Alaska a bunch of documents which will prove Trump why Ukraine is not a real country, but it's kind of a made-up artificial entity, and therefore Putin is trying to bring everything to the lawful resolution, and Ukraine is definitely not part of it.
Well, maybe Putin is bringing the Epstein files. That's what he's bringing.
He might have the Epstein files.
He has copies of that. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, you may have copies of that. I do have a question about MAGA, and this is for everybody because like I said earlier, before everybody got here, I was watching the Midas Touch and watching a couple of other documents. But is MAGA starting? Because I know John is oftentimes talking about the nonsense of MAGA and everything like that. But are they starting to fracture? Because it looks like Laura Loomer and Marjorie Taylor Greene are at each other's throats and making accusations about each other, including accusations about maybe even some sexual acts that should take place or should not take place, and all along those lines. So, is there some serious fractioning among the women of Trump and all along those lines? Because those used to be some of his darlings.
Yeah, I think there is. I'm happy for small miracles.
If you look at polling results, any kind of internal dissension hasn't made very big inroads into his support from his base yet.
So even though there's dissension among them and dissension among like Candace Owens is starting to veer away and some others are starting to veer away, there is not enough.
No, I mean Candace Owens veered kind of quote unquote veered away a while back, if you can consider it veered away, but she hasn't. Just as Rick pointed out, they're not really leaving Trump. I mean, you don't just up and leave a cult, and that's what it is. So they're going to be there to the end until something really triggers them. And right now, nothing is. Even the Epstein files really hadn't triggered them.
Well, that's part of what Marjorie Taylor. But hold on a second. That's part of what Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying. She's saying she wants the Epstein files released. Maybe she's going after some Democrats and everything like that. But she says she wants them released, and she's also saying that Laura shouldn't be have the ear of the leadership of Trump and some of the other leadership and everything like that. So that's part of what the argument is that
33% of the people, like MTG and Loomer, they're going to be in that cult. I think the hope is that the independents will realize that they were sold a bill of goods, they were conned. So that's where my hope is.
Yeah, so support to Trump among
not to the Loomers, not to the MTGs, not to even some of the right-wing podcasters and influencers. It's the independents.
Yes, according to some recent surveys, support for Trump among independents is at about 30%. Will this have any kind of implications? I don't know. So Loomer is a crazy person, but crazy people aren't necessarily crazy every waking minute. Right. So Loomer, can Marjorie Taylor Greene is an a-hole, but she's not an a-hole every single minute of the day. So these people can, from time to time, say reasonable things, and say things that convince Trump to do stuff.
They're not going to convince Trump. Remember, whatever Trump says is what they do. And that's the sad part.
Right, but if they get his ear, they can change his. Like Trump is notorious for changing his mind based on the last person who talked to him.
And that's what's going on with Laura Loomer, and with the negotiations supposedly with Russia. Because remember, he said something different after he met with the European leaders via Zoom yesterday. But then today he's going to say something completely different. It's just Trump doesn't know what he's doing, but he's.
I have a question on the meeting with Trump and Putin. Is that going to be recorded, or is there going to be private, just one-on-one?
They said one-on-one, so I don't think it's going to be recorded.
I think Sasha's right. Putin's going to play Trump like a fiddle.
Yep.
Definitely going to play him like a fiddle there. But of course, they'll come out after the one-on-one meeting with their reports on what happened, and it'll probably be a glowing report from both of them and everything like that. There is another thing that goes on in the world, just to get away from Russia just for a second. There's a lot of people that get caught up in cash and payment systems and all along those lines. And there are several popular ones that are out there. There's Cash App that's had problems. There's PayPal that's had problems. There's a number of other ones. But one that you really hadn't heard that much trouble about was Zelle. And apparently, New York Attorney General Letitia James is suing Zelle's parent company, alleging it enabled fraud. And so there might be some other things going on with widespread fraud in this payment system. So, what is our thoughts around this? Because apparently, this is even tied into Trump administration, because apparently he was involved with some of the sales stuff as well. So, what is our thoughts around these payment systems, and are they worth it, and are they all going to go down in flames?
All right. So, according to the lawsuit, Zelle has allowed scammers to steal over $1 billion from consumers, where people get caught. Like, you get text messages, emails saying that you're in various kinds of trouble and you need to send money to various.
Because there's a whole grandma scam. I just saw that on the news, the local news yesterday. There's a whole grandma scam where they are targeting grandmas and granddaddies.
Reminder that Trump pardoned the guy on the dark web, who caused a lot of harm.
Yeah, and even if you don't get scammed, the environment of scamming makes people. It makes us overly suspicious of everything. My wife got a text from a credit card we applied to, and we were so suspicious of it, we ended up talking to a guy on the phone, and in the middle of the conversation, I'm like, are you even a real person? Because he sounded kind of, I thought maybe he was AI. And this whole environment of scamming and AI just adds and it makes for an environment of suspicion, which is just screws up everybody's day. You don't have to lose money to a scam to have your life complicated by scamming.
Yep, that's very true and everything like that. I was wondering, did anybody rush out to get the Powerball yesterday and everything? Because apparently here in the States, the number is almost 500,000, so you can get there and be close to Musk and Trump kind of wealth, if we believe that Trump's got that kind of wealth and everything, because they're talking about a $531 million jackpot if you got the draw yesterday and everything, because that's what it's risen to. Well, actually, I guess nobody got it, so now it's $565 million. So what is our take? Are you running out to get a lottery ticket?
We might do that every once in a while if it starts getting up to $1 billion. Though it's ridiculous behavior, because the odds that you'll get a payoff are, super tiny, like getting hit by lightning twice.
Well,
there is a way to beat the lottery, and that is you join a syndicate of gamblers who spend hundreds of millions of bucks buying every possible number in the lottery, so they're guaranteed to win, and you might get a 20% return on your investment, unless there's more than one winner, and then you might lose money.
Hey, Sasha, I know one of the things you always talk about and you're not a big fan of, and I'm not saying that I am either, because I've never had any of that money, even though I know people that have had that money, but they're saying that there's a Trump-fueled crypto frenzy that is sparking a rush to Wall Street IPO. So I guess that because Trump has got his own crypto and everything, that people are going more into the crypto market. They're saying Bitcoin hit a new high and everything like that. So what is your take on this crypto craze? Because it seems like there's a crypto craze again. They're saying that the crypto exchange market cap went above $10 billion.
Well, you have to distinguish between, for example, Bitcoin and Trump's coins.
Right.
You see, Bitcoin is indeed becoming a certain, still risky, but anyway, a segment of investing, which now even several investment funds, hedge funds, and many other investment entities are turning to, in a way, a hedge against US dollar. Again, you can probably, gold would be a better quality asset that would reflect the position against US dollar. However, Bitcoin has some attractions compared to gold, for example, and because gold has to be ejected from the ground. You have to operate in some kind of unfriendly territories, being subject to revolution or social upheavals and outright mm, bandits raids and so on. So that you can escape all that from going into Bitcoin, although there are also scams and there are also different ways to extract money from investors. Well known, some of them. So I'm I'm not trying to figure out what is better, Bitcoin or gold. To me, gold still has advantage over Bitcoin.
So
Now, Bitcoin is
the smaller, more obscure uh, crypto coins are subject to standard kinds of scamming, pump and dump, where you get dumb people excited and you get them to invest, and then you pull your money out, and then the price collapses. It's also called a rug pull. It's also, pretty close to a Ponzi scheme where the first investors, the ones behind the thing, they throw in their money, they get everybody excited, then they pull out their money, which is really everybody, all later investors' money, and then the price goes to zero. And the later investors are the suckers.
Yeah, that makes
It's the
sense.
same thing that happened with what Trump did with the Trump coin. Also, another reason why it's jumped is because Trump also put in money, the taxpayer money, to federally back the Bitcoin market. So there's a lot of bad stuff going on in the Bitcoin market. They've also it ripped off two countries at one point. So don't get me wrong, cryptocurrency, have fun with it, whatever you want to do, but there are problems. It does become a Ponzi scheme more times than it doesn't.
Also, if you go on Twitter and you look at the feeds of people who are promoting these various coins, they have a believer profile of being suckers. You go on their feeds and you look at what they're tweeting about, and the same people who are into crypto are often into a lot of bullshit conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
So if you look at your fellow investors and they're all idiots, maybe that should indicate you're an idiot.
And you might want to stay away from that and everything. Yeah, I know you talk about AI quite a bit, Rick, and everything. And there is a major company, because I know that definitely Sasha is in the investment space and everything along those lines. But there's a major company, I remember going and using them myself, that is possibly in trouble. They may be closing after 145 years of being in business, even though they're pushing back on reports that they may shut down and everything like that. But they're saying that Kodak may be a victim of AI and the AI age and everything like that.
Kodak has been collapsing as a company for 30 years. That Kodak made most of its money by selling film for cameras.
Right.
So nobody uses cameras anymore because we have cameras in our phones. The film is a very specialized medium for like the very few professional photographers. So yeah, Kodak has been struggling forever.
Yeah, they're saying they may go out and they're partially blaming it on AI, but yeah, they've been suffering for a while. But like I said, I do remember as a youngster going to the different Kodak shops and getting the film developed. But like you said, that's the old school way of doing stuff. Hey, John and Sasha, I stumbled across a Canadian story that I was not aware of because I don't follow Canadian news as much as I probably should and everything. But there is a potential strike of the flight attendants that is going on in Canada. What do you know about this and what's going on, and will it stop? Because I know, well, I don't know about you, John, but I know Sasha flies a decent amount and everything because they're canceling all flights starting this weekend. And the jobs minister is asking the union to respond to Air Canada's arbitration request. So I'm just wondering, is this something that you're concerned about as a traveler? Because I do know that Sasha, you travel. I don't know if John travels, even though I'm sure in his old job he used to travel, but he's retired now.
Well, this is a wonderful result of having a unionized business as such in Canada, for example. And also, you probably remember what's happened in Reagan's time when there was air traffic controllers strike. Remember what he did?
He fired all of them.
Fired all of
Fired all of them. It's that's probably where Trump learned his line, "You're fired." Following
And we said the air traffic control system in America still hasn't recovered from that fully. We still are understaffed. We're still using computers, tracking systems that are 30 years out of date. It makes a stressful job doubly stressful.
Well, and now on top of it, there is a flight attendants, but I don't think that from firing all those flight attendants, you would need 30 years to recover. I think flight attendants, you may even impose in economy class a self-serving service where you go and get your own coffee coming back to your seats. Maybe that's the future of aviation, and maybe they can even save some money by doing that.
So can we go back to AI for a sec? Where
no, you had a question about AI. The ties in probably to what you're going on and everything.
Let me talk about this trend though.
Yeah.
That Gen Z, that's people born between 1997 and 2012. So very pretty young people. Gen Z having less sex than any other generation in history, including masturbation. Also drinking less than any previous generation. So Gen Z is so wedded to its devices that it is giving up direct physical sensual pleasures. So which could be a good thing if it makes Gen Z able to merge with AI, because the only way we're going to survive AI 50 years from now is if we become AI. And if Gen Z has quit jerking off and quit drinking and quit hooking up, well, maybe they're ready to become, half computer.
Well, that's where I was going with my question, and I don't know whether anybody here. I know maybe Jacoby's going to get one, and maybe others are as well. And I don't have them on right now, but I do wear glasses and everything like that. But what is our thought about this notion of AI type glasses? Because apparently Samsung is getting ready to launch these AI glasses with camera, mic, and speakers, but no screen and everything. And apparently there's already the Meta AI glasses, but that seems like they could be very distracting if you're walking down the street and on your glasses is all these images of stuff that you're looking up and everything like that, and you're trying to cross the street and everything. That could lead to some disasters in my mind.
Yeah, but people already have disasters. The people text and drive.
I just want to point this out real quick. Being one of the younger members on this,
That's why
just left. He's also one of the younger ones. Old people just don't realize this has been around for a while. I mean, y'all are talking as if this is new. But the same thing with the scams that you were talking about earlier, that's a lot of scammers hit a lot of elderly because the elderly don't realize, like with the email scams, with the toll scams that they're receiving texts, and it creates that fear. All these viruses that pop up on your screen. Oh, I've got to click this, or this is all the same thing. Like Google Glass came out way back when,
2014 or something.
Exactly, and that was 11 years ago. Google Glass was being developed even years before that. Do you know what Google Glass is? What you're talking about now that Samsung has actually developed, actually brought down the price of the production of these glasses. So therefore, now they can release it to consumers. So it's an actual price at a price point that is bearable. But this has been around for like 2-3 decades now, because this whole AI situation, AI has been around forever, but all this stuff is it's been there forever. It's just that we never, it's new to a newer age group. How we just talked about Gen Z this and Gen Z that. Well, Gen Z has known about AI forever. Gen Z grew up with AI. Gen Z has known about Google Glass and these putting in the lenses. Do you know at one point Google was talking about a contact lens that was going to be able to tell if you were diabetic? There was actually
well, that's what they were saying.
a
Apple's
minor
got
league
a
baseball team was supposed to put in urinals that was going to be able to test your urine as you're actually sitting there peeing. All this stuff, this is technology that's been around for just ever.
All this tech is heads-up display, like for a fighter pilot. A fighter pilot looking out his cockpit or her cockpit is seeing like all this. You've seen it in a million movies. All these graphics superimposed over their windshield that tells them if they're locked on and all. And people are going to adapt to this very quickly.
People have
adapted to heads-up display. Real quick, Mark. Heads-up display has been in cars for the past 10 years. Because now you got the heads-up display where it tells you, okay, your speed on how fast you're going. There's a turn coming up. Also, in gaming, heads-up display is what you describe as what you're utilizing, what you're looking at in terms of your character, because you got to look at the heads-up display. So yeah, all this technology has been around for a long time.
No, but I got a question based on that, because this one I think I would use and everything. I probably would even use the computer glasses and everything. But why was there a controversy? Maybe you noticed or Rick around this blood oxygen watch that was something that Apple developed. Apparently, is now going to return to the U.S. after they had a legal win. It seems to me that if you can get medical knowledge off of a watch, that would be a good thing. So, what was the controversy around this?
I don't know. I mean, people love Apple Watch that has like it can tell you if you're going into AFib, blood oxygen.
The controversy wasn't the blood oxygen piece. The controversy is that a technology that another company had and that Apple bought out, or actually Apple utilized without their permission, or actually it was a trademark, not a trademark issue, but an issue where technology was used by another company or developed by another company. They're getting sued about it. So it's not these technology things. Again, there's a lot of tech that's out there. Google, and this is why a lot of the big companies, they end up buying a lot of these smaller companies. Like, for example, there was when Google was starting to create their watches, which their watches have been out forever, they had purchased a company that was dealing in sonar technology. I think I brought it up one time years ago, but it was sonar technology. So instead of you actually using a physical button on your actually the physical touch feature, which it actually may come out pretty soon because it's been in development for years, but basically, it's using a sonar to detect the intricacies of how you utilize your fingers, so you could move them back and forth, and that supposedly like winds or sets the watch to a particular time.
So you can just wave your hands in the air the way they do on like cop shows with their virtual. They're just moving shit around like this.
And again, that's all technology that's been there for a while. It's just basically shrinking it. The Theramune, which is actually an instrument that uses your hands above it, they create music. And that's been around.
That Star Trek-y sounding deal where it's like this rod, and you're like you're moving the air.
Yep.
And all that else, Toby, you talked about old people like being surprised by this, but of the 3 million people in America who already have computers in their bodies, it's mostly old people with pacemakers and insulin pumps. And so if the technology works, if a doctor says, yeah, we're going to stick a computer in you so you don't die, you're like, okay. And so, all this stuff is coming.
And I mean, what you're saying is spot on, Rick. And that's where it becomes a messaging thing, a how we talk about it thing. Because just as you said, elderly people have had computers in their bodies forever. But then if you talk about it now, or if you talk about like AI and I don't want to give my information away online. Well, I'm sorry. You've posting a because you saw some other old person say it and they're trustworthy, that if you post a long worded thing that says, hey, Facebook, I'm sorry, you've already agreed to it. So you posting that means absolutely nothing. But the talk about it, the belief, because a lot of the elderly individuals fall for that trap. It's why, again, these scams that you talked about earlier, Mark, these computer scams and all this stuff, yes, a lot of elderly people fall for it because of the fact they don't understand. They get panicked around the computers because they're not comfortable with the computers in the first place. And then they're told that, oh, something's wrong. I got to fix because this computer told me. No, it's a scam.
So let's talk about Alzheimer's. The youngest boomer now is 61 years old. We've got a huge wave of Alzheimer's coming, plus COVID accelerates brain aging. So we're going to have 30 million Americans at some point with some degree of dementia or Alzheimer's. And in the life of an Alzheimer's person, there's a post-it notes phase where they can still live independently if their son-in-law comes in and sticks up a ton of post-it notes all over their apartment, reminding them of where everything is and what everything does. We're going to start seeing tech that is virtual post-it notes, maybe glasses, maybe something in their ear that helps people with early, dementia continue to function by being their brain buddy.
And then you've got the whole password technologies and this stuff, because again, that's another scary thing. That's why two-factor authentication came into play, which is actually necessary now because a lot of people forget their passwords. A lot of places are getting hacked simply. So, and elderly individuals don't understand the two-factor authentication situation. So they've tried to make it a little bit easier. That's where the facial recognition, that's where a lot of other things had come into play to help with this stuff. But again, it's just a lot. Just to get back to it, a lot of the technology that we're talking about, it's been around for decades. It's just now becoming more consumer friendly. And the more it becomes consumer friendly and the way our messaging apparatus is set up now, people are getting scared because people play political games and people will create something online and say something, hey, if you eat some pickles and drink the juice, guess what? Hey, I can actually cure you of this. It's the same thing.
So people in their 50s, it's a very common experience. People in their 50s with parents in their 80s, like you can't watch your parents 24 hours a day, and people will sell them all sorts of crap. And if you could put an electronic Jiminy Cricket on your 87-year-old mom's phone that is like, hey, do you really want to buy $20,000 worth of new windows? Is this really your grandson calling from prison? And so monitoring systems, it's all coming, and we're gonna need it. We're gonna need to merge with our tech so AI doesn't kick our asses.
Well, that's even something they were talking about in the Hollywood Reporter, because they have this list of several podcasts that are very popular, including Mel Robbins and the one that Michelle Obama has, and even might have touched on other ones. But Mel Robbins was asked her thoughts on using AI in podcasting, and she said there are so many podcasts out there that are hosted by AI bots and not real humans, and they are repurposing and reposting the work of many shows. At a minimum, we need regulations to require AI-generated content to be labeled as such. So what is your thoughts around this? Do we have to have this point where because I know even Nick has joked that he could create a show of all of us being nothing but AI characters and not doing the show the way that we do it now and everything, but would you have to have a notice out there saying this content is actually AI?
Yeah, if you watch YouTube, if you watch TikTok, and you just let the videos flow over you, a certain percentage of them are going to be the product of AI-generated fake voices. They find a story that people are interested in. All this stuff isn't touched by humans. That AI cruises the frickin' internet and looks for stories that people are interested in. Then it generates like a bullshit People magazine type, friendly version of it, and you can let 45 seconds of this story wash over you before you realize, hold on, this isn't a human product. This is just some bullshit.
Yeah, just really quickly, because we only got about 5 minutes to go, and
real quick on with the AI thing, yes, it should be labeled because yes, a lot of people, again, be it young and old, are susceptible to falling for the AI, especially the way it is now. So yes, and then I hear that they're making it to where with AI movies, because they are there, there's going to be a separate category for AI movies now, because that's there. But now even comedians, for example, Mark, if you can bring this up, this is what people are doing with AI online.
Well, but hold on real quick. AI movie trailers, Titanic Part 2, Forrest Gump Part 2. You can watch a couple of these and be like, wow, that looks like a shitty movie, before you realize it's not a real movie.
So like that, and then you have like this, where you have individuals who use AI, make something funny, and then react to it. Like this gentleman.
Backdoor sessions still have me walking funny, but still made me squirt like fire hose.
Back in my day, I was known as what young people today call a certified throat goat. I could suck a golf ball through a garden hose.
Hit him with my gum runner, 2-hand twist, throat slam, soul sucking. Oh, yeah.
None of those old ladies are real.
Slob on the knob when asked, and swallow every last drop, because no one likes a spitter. I'm a certified freak 7 days a week.
Hello, my name is Walt. I have heart problems and an 11-inch weenus. When I get stiff, I get lightheaded.
I'm about to show my ass. Bow! These Nick guys love a freak.
So yeah, you have, this is where we are now with some individuals in comedy. That's what they do.
And it's called AI slop. So that guy is reacting as if, look, he found all these old people who talk dirty. No, he didn't find any old people. None of those people are real.
None of those people are real and everything along those lines. We only got about 2 minutes to go, and one of the questions that they had asked them, I'll ask the all of you and everything, and I'll tell you mine. It'll probably be Dr. King and everything like that. So, Rick, if you could go back and interview a historical figure, who would it be? Because that was one of the questions that they asked one of these podcasters. And like I said, if I could go back and talk to Dr. King, it would be wonderful. So if you could go back and interview somebody famous that you can, because they're not here, who would that person be?
I mean, just all the standards, Marilyn Monroe, Einstein, freaking, Jefferson. Ask him about, was he in love with with Sally Hemings, the slave he was banging? Lincoln. We're going to be able to do that via AI too. We're going to be able to bring back a reasonable version of Lincoln. You can already do it. I'm sure if you go on ChatGPT and say, answer this question as if you're Abraham Lincoln, right, and it will do a semi-convincing job of that. And that stuff will only get better. Jane Austen, freaking Jesus.
Yeah. What about you?
The boring ones. Give me the good ones. I want to.
That's just off the top of my head.
Yeah. What about you, Toby?
See, for me, I would love to. Of course, I would love to chat with Sidney Poitier. I think that'd be kind of cool. But then I really want to talk to Vincent Van Gogh, because I would love to see his mindset. Because not only was he an artist, but he was also a writer. I would also love Vincent Van Gogh. Edgar Allan Poe, because Edgar Allan Poe had his sketches. He was an artist, but also a writer. Where was that mind, and how did you find these stories, and what did you see? There's something there. Give me my artist. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, but you can already do it to some extent. And in the future, you can do it as much as you want. Oh. And in the future, frickin' Abe Lincoln 3.0 might be dating Jane Austen.
Good point. Conan Doyle would be an interesting person to interview, the originator of Sherlock Holmes and all along those lines. John, if you can interview somebody maybe from Canada or somebody else.
I have two, Carl Sagan and Christopher Hitchens, and I'd ask him what they think of the modern world, and I'd ask Hitchens what he thinks of Trump.
Okay. What about you, Sasha? If you could interview somebody from the past.
I wouldn't mind to talk to Karl Marx, and so he would help me to explore his theory, and I would ask if he would like to review his theory from the 21st century point of view. That would be quite interesting. Another character would be Napoleon. And finally, Chinggis Khan.
Oh yeah, all of those would be great and everything, and they would definitely be some interesting ones.
I got another one for you. Benny Hill. I would love to interview Benny Hill.
Yeah, Benny Hill would be great, and there's a great jazz greats like Miles Davis and definitely John Coltrane and a lot of those others that I would love to interview because they had interesting lives, and definitely be interested to see how they had their creativity, because that creativity might have been fused by certain things that they were doing as well. So yeah, it'd be interesting to interview, and definitely Mingus and all of those. But that would be great. But we're going to get on out of here, and we might be talking more about podcasting and AI on tomorrow. And actually, we got world politics at 5:00. So I'll catch some of you gentlemen at 5. But right now, it's time to get on out of here. And we're recording chess tomorrow, right, Sasha?
Yes, that's correct.
That is good. All right, cool. So right now, get out of here, and I'll hopefully see y'all at 5:00.
Thank you.
No problem.